Have you ever sat next to someone you love, actually love, not someone you're settling for, and felt a loneliness so specific and so undeniable that you couldn't explain it to anyone, including yourself, including them, especially them? We've all felt misunderstood in a relationship, but the specific loneliness of being unmet while physically close to your partner is one of the hardest experiences to name, partly because if you say it out loud, it sounds like a complaint about a relationship that, from the outside, looks fine. That's why this channel exists. At the Relationship Blueprint, we take the experiences that don't yet have language and translate them, using attachment psychology, neuroscience of connection, and the work of researchers like Bowlby, Ainsworth, and Sue Johnson, into something you can finally see, name, and begin to change. Today we're walking through 7 specific psychological reasons you can be physically present with someone and emotionally completely alone. Reason number 5 in particular is the one almost nobody recognizes in themselves because it disguises itself as love. It is responsible for more long-term loneliness in committed relationships than any of the other 6 combined. I'll show you why at minute 9. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which of the 7 reasons is operating in your relationship, where it came from, and the specific way you can begin to bridge the gap between standing next to your partner and actually being seen by them. Starting today. Welcome back to the Relationship Blueprint. Subscribe if you're new. New video every week. Now, let's talk about the loneliness almost nobody knows how to name. Here is what most people in your situation have never been told. The loneliness you feel when you are physically next to your partner is not evidence that something is wrong with the relationship. It is not evidence that you've chosen the wrong person. It is not evidence that love has died. It is, almost always, evidence that one or both of you, usually both, has hit the edge of how close your nervous systems were ever trained to allow themselves to be. Attachment researchers call this emotional unavailability inside proximity, the phenomenon of 2 people physically together while one or both are, at the level of the nervous system, somewhere else entirely. The body is here, the presence is not, and the partner who is left reaching can feel it acutely, but cannot quite name what is missing because the most visible signs of connection are technically intact. You're together, you eat together, you sleep together, you exchange the routines of a couple, and yet something the relationship is supposed to deliver is not arriving. That something has a name. It is called attunement, the moment-to-moment experience of being inwardly felt by another person. It is what infants need from caregivers to develop a regulated nervous system. It is what adults still need, every day, from partners. And it is the single most missed ingredient in long-term relationships that look fine from the outside and feel lonely from the inside. The loneliness you feel inside your relationship is not a relationship problem. It is an attunement problem. Once you can see the difference, you can finally begin to address what's actually missing, instead of trying to fix something that was never broken in the first place. Stay until reason 5, the emotional caretaking trap. That's the reason almost nobody recognizes in themselves, because it disguises itself as love. It is responsible for more silent loneliness in long-term relationships than any other pattern on this list. I'll get to it at minute 9. Reason 1. Their nervous system is co-regulated. Yours is not. The unequal arrival. What it looks like. Your partner seems to settle into your presence in a way that you do not. They are calm next to you. They sleep easily. They unwind. You, even when you love them, even when nothing is wrong, find yourself unable to fully arrive in the same physical space. You are present. You are not at rest. What's actually happening? This is what happens when one partner has a regulated nervous system and the other does not. The regulated partner experiences the relationship as a place of rest. The dysregulated partner experiences the same relationship as a place where they have to remain on alert, even though there is no longer anything to be alert about. The disparity is invisible from the outside. From the inside, it is a chasm. The psychology. Stephen Porges' Polyvagal theory describes this as a difference in what he calls ventral vagal activation, the state of the nervous system in which social engagement and rest become possible. Two partners in the same room can be in completely different physiological states. The one whose nervous system has not been trained to settle inside connection will not settle here, no matter how loving their partner is. Here is how to bridge it. The first step is naming it to yourself, then to your partner. I notice that I can't fully relax even when we're close. That's not about you. That's about a pattern in me that predates this relationship. This sentence does two things at once. It tells your partner what you're experiencing, and it tells your own nervous system that you're aware of the gap. Awareness is the first piece of bridging. Reason 2. Your conversations have stopped going below the surface, the maintenance trap. What it looks like. Your conversations are fine, friendly, efficient. You talk about the day, the week, the kids, the plans, the logistics of a life shared. But somewhere, without anyone noticing it happen, the conversations stopped going below the surface. And now neither of you remembers the last time you said something to each other that wasn't operational. What's actually happening? This is what relationship researchers call parallel maintenance. Two people running a household together, well, but no longer running the deeper layer of the relationship that produced intimacy in the first place. The surface looks fine, maybe better than ever, but underneath it, both of you are slowly becoming strangers who happen to share the same calendar. The psychology. John Gottman's research on long-term couples found that the strongest predictor of relationship satisfaction over decades is not the absence of conflict or the presence of romance. It is the regular practice of what he calls bids for connection that are received rather than missed. Maintenance conversations are not bids. They are logistics. Without the deeper bids, the relationship's emotional bank account silently empties. Here is how to bridge it. The intervention is simple, repeatable, and almost universally ignored. One question per day that has nothing to do with logistics. What was the best part of your day? What's something on your mind you haven't told me yet? What did you used to want for your life that you haven't thought about in a while? One question. Real listening. No problem solving. This single practice is the most reliable predictor of long-term reconnection in the research. Reason 3. One of you has become hyper-independent, the invisible wall. What it looks like. One of you, sometimes them, has become deeply, almost reflexively self-sufficient. They don't ask for help. They handle things. They don't burden the relationship with their needs. From the outside, it looks like strength. From the inside of the relationship, it produces the loneliness of being with someone who has built a wall they don't even know they've built. What's actually happening? Hyper-independence is, in attachment terms, what happens when a child grows up in a household where reaching for help was either dangerous, ignored, or punished. The nervous system concluded, I will get my needs met by not having them. That conclusion does not go away in adulthood. It becomes a structural feature of how the person inhabits relationships, including the ones they most want to be close inside. The psychology. Researchers including Mario Mikulinsa and Philip Shaver have documented hyperindependence as one of the most reliable behavioral markers of avoidant attachment in long-term partnerships. The hyper-independent partner is not cold. They are not uncaring. They are operating from a nervous system that learned long ago that closeness through need is the most dangerous form of closeness there is. Here is how to bridge it. If you are the hyper-independent partner, the first practice is the smallest possible request. Can you get me a glass of water? Can you take the bins out? Explicitly stated, even though you could do it yourself. The practice is not the task. The practice is letting yourself be helped. If your partner is the hyper-independent one, the practice is patience and the slow, repeated demonstration that asking is safe, without ever pressuring them to do it. Reason 4. You have stopped telling them the smaller things, the unspoken inventory. What it looks like. You used to tell them everything, the throwaway thoughts, the half-formed feelings, the dream you had, the thing your co-worker said that bothered you for no clear reason, and then, somewhere, you stopped. Not because you were hiding anything, just because, gradually, without noticing, the smaller things stopped being worth saying. And now your partner has no idea what your interior weather is actually like. What's actually happening? This is one of the quietest forms of disconnection because it is built from absence rather than presence. The withholding is not deliberate. It is simply that you have stopped doing the daily work of letting the smaller pieces of your inner life cross into the shared space. And without those smaller pieces, your partner is left interacting with a curated version of you, and the version is, by definition, less than the whole. The psychology. Esther Perel writes about this as the erotics of disclosure, the way long-term relationships sustain intimacy through the continuous, ordinary sharing of inner life. When the disclosure stops, both partners lose access to the kind of intimate detail that allows them to feel known. The loss is gradual. The loneliness it produces is total. Here is how to bridge it. The practice is one small disclosure per day, not a confession, not a deep conversation, a small piece of internal weather shared. I had the strangest thought at work today. I dreamed about my mother last night, and I don't know what it meant. I felt unexpectedly sad on the train. The smaller, the better. The point is, the practice of letting yourself be in the same interior room as your partner, even briefly, every day. Reason 5. You've become their emotional caretaker and stopped being their partner, the trap that disguises itself as love. Reason 5. The one I told you would land hardest. Pay close attention here, because this is the reason that lives quietly inside many of the most loving-looking relationships in the world. And it is responsible for more long-term loneliness than any of the other 6 combined. What it looks like. You are the emotional steady one, the one who holds it together, the one who can be counted on. When your partner has a bad day, you know exactly what they need. When they're anxious, you soothe them. When they're sad, you listen. When they're overwhelmed, you carry more. You are, by every external measure, an excellent partner, and you have not been emotionally taken care of by them, deeply, in longer than you can remember. What's actually happening? This is the role of the emotional caretaker, and it is one of the cruelest configurations a long-term relationship can settle into. because it disguises itself as love. The caretaking is real. The love is real. But the relationship has slowly evolved into a one-way street where one person provides emotional regulation and the other consumes it, and where the caretaker has stopped being a partner who receives love and has become instead a service that delivers it. Here is why this reason is the most invisible. The caretaker almost always loves the caretaking. It comes naturally to them. They are good at it. They feel valuable when they're doing it. They often grew up in households where being the emotional caretaker for a parent was how they earned love in the first place. So the pattern doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like who they are. But somewhere underneath the caretaking, usually years in, a profound loneliness develops. The caretaker, while delivering love, is not receiving the specific kind of love that comes from being inwardly felt by another person. They are seen as a function. They are not seen as a self. And the partner, who has unknowingly been receiving without giving in equal measure, has stopped doing the work of being curious about the caretaker's interior. They don't ask the questions. They don't notice the smaller things. They depend, increasingly without realizing, on a relationship structure in which one person attunes and the other is attuned to. The psychology. Attachment researchers, including the work of John Bowlby and Sue Johnson, describe this as one-way attunement, and the data on it is striking. Couples in which attunement flows in both directions report dramatically higher long-term satisfaction. Couples in which only one partner provides attunement report initially high satisfaction that erodes over years. The caretaker usually doesn't leave. They just become, slowly, more lonely, until, in many cases, the loneliness becomes louder than the love. Here is what to do if this is you. The intervention is not to stop caretaking. It is to stop caretaking as a replacement for being seen. The next time you do the emotional work for your partner, also do this. Afterward, name it. I love being able to be here for you, and I want to tell you something I need too. I'd like you to ask me what's been going on inside me lately. Not as a transaction, just as a practice we both make sure to do. This is the request that almost no caretaker ever makes, because the caretaker has been trained since childhood that to ask for attunement is to lose the love they get by providing it. That training is wrong. The request is the beginning of the bridge. The loneliest people in long-term relationships are usually not the emotionally neglected ones. They are the emotional caretakers who have been giving love for so long that they've forgotten what it feels like to receive it. If this is you, the relationship is not broken. The role distribution is, and it can be changed, but only if you are willing to ask for what you have been giving away your whole life. Reason 6. You have stopped being curious about each other. The curiosity collapse. What it looks like. You think you know your partner. They think they know you. And both of you are partially right and significantly wrong. Because people change continuously, and the relationship has slowly stopped doing the work of asking who they have most recently become. The version of your partner you respond to is the version of them you met. The current version is mostly unknown to you, and the same is true in reverse. What's actually happening? Esther Perel famously described long-term relationships as the meeting of two strangers who keep changing. The mistake most couples make is treating each other as known quantities. And slowly, the daily curiosity that fueled the early relationship is replaced by the comfortable assumption that you already understand each other. That assumption is the architecture of the loneliness. You are next to a stranger you think you already know. The psychology. The neuroscience of curiosity research, including work by Mario Livio, demonstrates that curiosity activates the same reward pathways as romantic attraction. When curiosity collapses, so does the felt sense of attraction, even when the love is intact. The loss of curiosity is not a loss of love. It is a loss of the practice that keeps love feeling alive. And the practice is what produces the experience of being seen. Here is how to bridge it. 1 question per week that you do not know the answer to. Not, how was your day? You can probably predict the answer. What's something you've been thinking about lately that I don't know about? What's something about you that's changed in the last year that I might not have noticed? Real, naive, slow curiosity. The practice rebuilds the daily experience of being known by someone who is paying attention. Reason 7. You're both performing connection instead of practicing it. The choreography of intimacy. What it looks like. You do the things couples are supposed to do. Date night. The "how was your day" conversation. The kiss before leaving. The hug when you return. The vacation photos. All of it is intact. None of it is producing the actual experience of being met by your partner. You are both, without meaning to, performing the choreography of intimacy without doing the deeper practice underneath it. What's actually happening? This is what happens when the rituals of intimacy become divorced from the practice they were originally serving. The forms remain. The function has emptied out. You are both, in good faith, doing the things couples do, but doing them as a performance rather than as a vehicle for actual attunement. And underneath the performance, the loneliness compounds because both of you can sense, dimly, that something is being acted out rather than actually exchanged. The psychology. Researchers who study long-term relational satisfaction have documented this as ritual without resonance. The persistence of relationship behaviors after the underlying emotional content has faded. The behaviors can continue almost indefinitely. The connection, without active replenishment, cannot. Here is how to bridge it. Pick one ritual you currently do mechanically and make it real again. The kiss goodbye, but with eye contact. The how was your day, but with actual interest in the answer and the willingness to ask a follow-up question if the first answer is short. The vacation, but with one honest conversation about how each of you is actually doing in your life right now. The ritual is fine. Add the practice back into it. The practice is what produces the experience of being met. 7 reasons. 7 specific patterns. And underneath all of them, one practice that quietly addresses every reason on this list. The practice has a name. It is called naming the gap. Here is what it sounds like, in its simplest form. Sitting next to your partner, hand on their hand. Saying, out loud, the thing both of you have probably been feeling for a long time. I love you. I feel a little far from you these days. Even though we're here, I don't know exactly what's missing. I want to figure it out. With you, not at you. Would you be willing to talk about it with me? That's it. That is the whole bridging practice. It sounds almost too simple, and it is one of the hardest sentences in any long-term relationship to actually say. Because saying it requires admitting to your partner that the loneliness is real. It requires risking that they might not know what to say back. It requires resisting the impulse to specify the problem before you've even introduced the gap. And it requires trusting that the willingness to name the gap together is the beginning of bridging it, even if neither of you knows, yet, exactly what to do. Most couples never have this conversation. They get used to the gap. They live with the loneliness. They mistake duration for intimacy. The couples that thrive over decades are not the ones without the gap. They are the ones who name it together the moment it appears, and treat the naming as a couple's practice rather than as a relationship crisis. You can stand next to someone you love and feel completely alone. That experience is not the failure of the relationship. It is the relationship asking to be tended to. The asking is in the loneliness itself. The answer is in willingness to name it together. Now, if you've made it this far, and you've recognized your relationship in any of these 7 reasons, here is what I want you to know before you go. The loneliness inside a long-term relationship is one of the most under-discussed experiences in modern love. Almost nobody is taught the language for it. Almost nobody is shown how to bridge it. And the result is that millions of couples sit on sofas, side by side, in the exact loneliness this video described, and assume their relationship is uniquely broken, when in fact, it is uniquely human. The single most important next step you can take for yourself, for your partner, for the relationship, is understanding the language each of you needs in order to feel seen. We call those love languages, and almost every couple gets them wrong, in ways that produce the exact loneliness this video named. If today's video gave you language for the experience, the next one gives you the practical tools to begin closing the gap. The 5 love languages most couples get wrong, and why both of you have probably been feeling unloved without knowing why. Watch it next. It's the natural sequel to what you just watched. Subscribe to the Relationship Blueprint. New video every week. You are not the only person who has felt this loneliness. You are not the only couple who has carried it in silence. And the practice of bridging it, once it's named, is one of the most loving things 2 people can do for each other. I'll see you in the next one.